not going to be here?
I don't know, sir.
I haven't heard from him. Not going to be here? Okay. All right. Y'all make sure you have your microphones turned on, so we'll start the meeting. So, okay. Okay. All right. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Texarkana, Texas City Council. Today is Monday, March the 10th, 2025. We have a large crowd in the audience this evening, so I want to welcome all of you to our council meeting, as well as those who may be joining us online this evening. At this time, I'll call on our City Secretary, Jennifer Evans, to provide a roll call. Ms. Evans?
Ms. Page?
Here.
Mr. Davis? Thompson?
Here.
Ms. Hart? Here. Ms. Matlock? Here. Mr. Metter?
Here.
Councilmember Davis is not here with us this evening, so matters coming before the council this evening that require a vote, I will be voting on those matters this evening as well. Our invocation and pledge will be led by Councilmember Cole Metter. If everyone will please stand.
Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this day. Thank you for the opportunity to serve this great city. Lord, as we discuss and decide on decisions, please let us bring us closer to your will. In your heavenly name I pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. You may be seated. Moving along with our agenda this evening, we do have two special presentations. The first presentation will be brought to us by Summit Utilities for a proposed rate increase, effective date of May 1st, 2025. Representatives from Summit Utilities will present a proposed natural gas rate increase with an effective date of May 1st, and the City Council will have an opportunity to ask questions of the Summit representatives, and a public hearing and council action on this proposal together with the city staff recommendations will be scheduled for our next council meeting that is scheduled for April 14th, 2025. So at this time, I'll turn it over to our city manager, Dr. David Orr, for any remarks pertaining to our presentation this evening. Dr. Orr?
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and I'll turn it over to Summit Utilities. I believe we have Brooke Parsons in the audience and representatives from Summit that will give the presentation.
Okay, sure. You all feel free to come forward. And if you'll please state your names for the record.
Of course. Brooke Parsons, Director of Regulatory Affairs for Summit Utilities.
Welcome.
Philip Gillum, Director of Rates at Summit Utilities.
Okay, welcome, sir. Glad to have you both with us. All right.
Thank you. We're glad to be here. We're joining you today because we realize that we provide information, but there's often a lot of questions when it comes to rate changes. And so we wanted to make sure we provided an opportunity to be informative and then also answer any questions that you may have. So I'm going to kick off this presentation. See if I can work. There we go. And I just want to give a little background of how we got here. And so in April of 2021, CenterPoint and Southern Call Midco, which is SUA's owner, entered into an asset purchase agreement. And that transaction closed in January 10th of 2022. And so at that time, SUA acquired the assets that used to be CenterPoint's. On January 25th, 2024, Summit filed a rate application before the Arkansas Public Service Commission. The case supports the increase based on a 12-month test period ending December 31st, 2023, and then adjusted for known and measurable changes through December 31st of 2024. So that's kind of how we got here. And then to just kind of talk about the Texas rate change process and some historical information about how CenterPoint used to operate in the Texarkana area. We'll move to this next section. So in Texas, the rate increase process with municipalities, the municipality has original jurisdiction over the rates. And that means that you guys get to basically have the first chance at the rate increase. And by statute, the city as the authority, has the obligation to set rates that are just and reasonable. I'm not going to read all the bullet points in detail and bore everybody. So if the parties, so either the utility or other parties are not satisfied, then they can appeal to the Railroad Commission, and that would lead us through a formal evidentiary rate case proceeding. If we were to go to a formal rate case proceeding, the utility reimburses the municipality for the cost of the appeal to the Railroad Commission, but then the utility can recoup those costs in its own reasonable cost by applying a surcharge to customers. That last point is important to explain why CenterPoint and now Summit are adopting this process or attempting to adopt this process. So we have a very small number of customers in Texas. These customers are served by gas lines crossing the state line. And historically, CenterPoint they would go into Arkansas Public Service Commission for a rate case. There would be a determination, and then CenterPoint would present that approved rate to the Texarkana municipality. Summit is proposing to follow the same process to avoid unnecessary expenses for Texas customers. So you're going to hear about Arkansas during some of this presentation, and that's because we're using Arkansas essentially as a proxy. So the commission went through vetted investments, expenses, all of that nature. And now, instead of having its own separate rate case in Texas, we get to essentially kind of bypass that fee and the legality of that, and we get to present you with kind of the work that's already been accomplished. I'm going to pause right there because we're about to get into the actual rate change itself. Any questions I can answer just about process or why we're here or anything of that nature? Okay. I am then going to pass it over to Mr. Phillip. You want me to run the machine or do you?
Yeah, I think I can figure it out, maybe. Okay, so when we put a rate case together, we try to determine, what's driving the need for a rate case to begin with. In the case of Summit, taking possession of the assets of previous CenterPoint company, we were looking at the level of capital investment primarily as the main driver for the increase in the overall rate case expense. And associated with the capital investment is a level of depreciation expense. You increase investment, then your depreciation expense is going to follow. The second bullet point talks about, the revenue requirement, and I don't want to get into a lot of technical terms here, but the revenue requirement that SUA took over as part of the asset transaction was, in effect, understated when the interim rates were implemented for SUA. And another driver of the case is the weighted average cost of capital and the proposed capital structure. So that determines the rate of return that is applied to the investments. And then we have income taxes up there, but that should say, we updated this slide, but didn't get a chance to incorporate it here. But that's federal income taxes, because we understand that there aren't any state income taxes in Texas. And this is just a slide that continues to explain, the need for the increased investment, replacement of aging infrastructure, making sure that we're providing a safe and reliable system, safe and reliable service as required by state and federal regulations. And the proposed increase more accurately reflects our current cost of business. And here are some of the activities, construction activities that we were able to kind of glean out of the case as they relate specifically to the Texas jurisdiction in terms of replacement of aging pipelines, 23 and 24, and aging customer service lines, and things of that nature. Overall, there was about, it's not on the slide, there's about $13 million increase in investment related to Texas. When we took over the assets of Texas, our investment was roughly around $40 million at the beginning of 2022, and then at the end of 2024, that investment is roughly $53 million. So about an increase of $13 million associated directly with Texas projects. And without getting, again, too technical, this particular slide is, the intent here is to try to point out that when you look at the incorporated cities as a unit, and if we were to, file a separate rate case for that entity, this would be the approximate result. This is our best estimate, as of today, without getting into all the nitty-gritty details of an actual rate case. And what this slide shows is that if you head straight to the bottom, if we were to file a rate case in Texas, the difference between the cost of service that we're proposing and the cost of service if we file a rate case is roughly $700,000. And that's, part of that is because of how, costs are allocated between the jurisdictions, between Arkansas and Texas, and the level of investment in Texas relative to the investment in Arkansas. So what you see on this slide is, just kind of a typical calculation that we do in this process to try to show what is the actual what we call the revenue deficiency. How much are we deficient relative to the current rates that we're getting in any particular jurisdiction? It's not just Texas. We did the same. We did this same calculation in Arkansas, but if you looked at it on sort of a standalone Texas basis, this is what we think a potential end result would be. Let me stop there and open up the floor for any questions at this point. I have a few more slides, but or if you want me to go all the way through.
No, that's fine. I do have one quick question. So, based on your current rate structure on the Arkansas side versus the Texas side, what's the variance or the difference in the current rate structure? Are the rates higher on the Arkansas side, or what's the correlation there?
Yeah. So because the rate a rate increase was approved as part of the January 25th, 2024 filing that we made, there is a disparity in the rates between the Arkansas customers and the Texas customers.
So with that said, so the rate currently for Arkansas customers is higher than what the current rate is that the Texas customers are paying?
That is correct.
Okay, is it significant or is it?
It is significant.
Okay.
Significant in the sense that when the rates the rate increase was approved in Arkansas, that difference was somewhat small and marginal because the Texas, when the transaction occurred, based on the the settlement that was achieved. The Texas customers ended with a slightly lower rate after the acquisition than the Arkansas customers, about, I want to say maybe about 3 or 4% less. But now the proposal is to have the same rate structure for the Texas customers as we have for the Arkansas customers.
Okay, one more question. So if I remember the information correctly, your jurisdictions on the Texas side include Texarkana, Texas, Nash, Wake Village, and Redwater. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and so are you also seeking rate relief in these jurisdictions as well?
Yes, yes. Because, again, as I think I mentioned earlier, we consider those to be sort of one unit, one entity for rate-making purposes.
Okay, all right. Any questions from the council at this
Yes,
point? Councilmember Thompson?
Hi.
Hi.
So you mentioned depreciation. How much depreciation are you taking? And that depreciation, in my simple understanding of it, is a bookkeeping adjustment, right? Am I right or wrong, or?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's an accounting adjustment
There's an accounting adjustment for that.
for depreciation.
So how much depreciation are you taking into account for making this rate adjustment? It's not a realized
Well,
loss. It's a.
Let me see if I can explain it in
Okay,
somewhat
please,
simple
yeah.
terms. As you put it in an asset, an investment,
Yes, sir.
you're allowed to depreciate it, but that accumulation of depreciation is a reduction to that asset. So when you're trying to calculate the return on the investment is on a net basis.
Correct.
So that's part of the recovery. The other part of the recovery is the actual yearly depreciation expense that is allowed, because that's an ongoing cost that theoretically is designed to,
That's theoretically correct.
well, theoretically and actually. I mean,
Okay.
you know, if you don't have these funds, then when it comes time to replace assets, especially long-lived assets, then you don't have a fund available to effectuate those replacements over time. And that's why you typically have fairly long lives for this type of property. Most of the main property, you know, mains and services are typically somewhere between 40 and 50 years.
Right. And so let me ask you another question right there.
Yeah.
Under current federal tax law, is the depreciation not 100% in the current tax year, or am I wrong about that?
Say that again?
Okay, do you fully depreciate the asset in the current tax, in the
Oh,
year?
No.
You don't?
No, I mean, there is some, I'm not a tax guy.
I'm not either. I'm not a tax guy either. But that's, I'm trying to get, there's a significant amount of money there.
There's this thing called accelerated depreciation
Yeah.
for tax purposes. So there's on a tax return, you get the difference between what's called your book depreciation versus your tax depreciation.
Okay.
And that's what you get a deduction for in your taxes. So your income taxes
Gotcha. Okay.
end up being lowered
Right.
for some period of time until there's what's called a turnaround. You know, when the assets have the depreciation on the assets is bigger than the tax deduction,
Yeah.
the accelerated depreciation.
And, okay, I'm just trying to get to, we are given, and I'm sure that we are, in this request, we're being given some credit for your depreciation.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, that's part of the process. So when I was talking earlier about, that very first line up there called rate base, that rate base is primarily your gross investment less your accumulated depreciation. And there's some other small items in there, but the preponderance of that number is investment less depreciation. So you're not paying, you're getting a credit for the depreciation. Yeah, getting a credit for the depreciation, as it relates to how the rate of return is calculated. Okay?
Ms. Matlock?
Yes, the slide that the young lady had with the lines that had been replaced. Can you go back to that one? Where were they replaced and how was the customer notified? And I've never seen, I didn't see anybody.
That would have to come back to
I'm going to welcome up
one
Mr.
of
Greg
our,
Strickland.
one of our engineering experts.
And how did you
About
determine?
engineering experts. Good afternoon, Council. I'm Greg Strickland, Director of Operations for South Arkansas and Texas. So predominantly, the bulk of the money in '24 was spent on the kind of the east side of Richmond Road, north of the interstate. We've had multiple projects going on in that area in '24. Some of those are actually wrapping up now. So, typically we replace 5.27 miles of the main line out at the street, and then all the services associated with those. Typically, we will, contact the customer by knocking on the door, communicating with them. We'll leave door hangers on the door, notifying them if they'll be working in their yard soon.
Well, the houses in my neighborhood are over 50 years old.
Okay.
Matter of fact, some of them are 70 years old because I was born in one of those houses. And I don't think anybody over there was ever contacted. They've had the same gas line for all those years. So I would consider those as aging lines.
Those are aging.
So nobody ever contacted us. Nobody has ever been in the neighborhood even to check to see if we have gas that I believe. I don't think they have.
So,
I may be wrong.
so we have not replaced those pipelines recently then, so what I'm understanding?
That's why I'm asking you. I don't think you have.
Okay. I'd be glad to take your address and information and do some research for you. I certainly will. Part of our process is
Like you
for
pick certain areas, I think, to do this with.
okay. Part of our process that we use to identify those projects, we're constantly monitoring the system. We do leak checks with some.
Well, don't you have some kind of process that tells you how old each one is in each area? Because
we
over
do.
the area that you say those areas shouldn't be that old. As the one where I'm living.
They may not be. I'll just have to go back and do the research on yours to determine when the last time CenterPoint or Summit or somebody was in the area. Again, we're always doing safety checks. Every year we're out driving the system and
Okay.
with that technology to determine, kind of the life expectancy combined with age like you're talking about, that's also factored in there, so.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the council at this point? Okay. Feel free to move forward.
Okay, thank you.
What is this thing? Is that all?
So this next slide is showing the estimated impact and the estimated bill impact. And we looked at it, under a few different lenses. One, the per month annual average, which would be $16. So that's looking at a bill on a yearly basis and saying that on average, the monthly impact would be $16. If you parse that out into, okay, what happens with this proposed increase to winter bills, then because there's more consumption during the winter months, and in the winter months, what we're considering winter months to be November through March. So November through March are considered the winter months, and April through October are considered the summer months. So if you look at it on a summer average per month, that increase is approximately $11 per month. As a percentage of the current base rates, that is a 63% increase, and as a percentage of the total bill, it's a 25% increase. And I'm going to stop right there because I think I might get a question or two.
Questions from the council on this part of the presentation? Okay, so it's like the electric utility, so historically you have a summer rate and a winter rate. Do you not?
No, we do not. Not like,
So is your
not
rates
like the
are fixed
electrics.
year-round? Is it one rate structure?
So the base rate is the same year-round. Now, the other part of the bill, or the other parts of the bill, are the gas supply rate. And so think of the bill in sort of two major components. What we're talking about here is the base rate, which is primarily to recover the investment in infrastructure and the associated costs. And then the next biggest portion of the bill is the gas supply rate. Now, that rate changes based on summer or winter gas costs. So that's why you see, as a percentage of total bill, that the increase, and to give you some real numbers associated with this, the current average bill for Texarkana is, on an average annual basis, is $46 a month. And it would go up to $62 a month. But if you look at what happens throughout the year, it's not going to go up. That's why you see $11 in the summer, because there's less consumption. And then a larger impact in the winter months, because the consumption is typically very much higher in the summer, because now you're getting into the heating season, and depending on, if customers use gas for heating their homes, then you're going to see and of course all of this is dependent, particularly in the winter, on the weather.
I will say, because I'm a Centerport customer, I will say that your billing information that you send out in your monthly statements has a lot of very good detailed information in it. You can compare the current month billing cycle to the previous year, usage, graphs, and things like that. So it's very, very helpful with the information that you all provide in your statements. So.
Yes, we think that's important, especially for people that are conscious about, managing their own individual costs, their own individual budgets. That information is useful to help people understand their consumption patterns and how it impacts their monthly bill.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
I got one more quick
Certainly.
question, comment. So look into your crystal ball and tell me what you think gas prices are going to do.
Well, the crystal ball right now says that gas prices are probably going up.
Really?
Yeah.
Don't the Trump.
I can't tell you all the factors. I mean, some of it
There's a
is
lot of factors, for
some
sure.
is the economy. Some of it has to do with what's happened during the winter. A colder winter means that for gas utilities, the way we try to manage gas costs is we try to buy cheaper gas during the summertime and put it in
futures?
yeah, and put it in storage. And then we use that gas along with some, we can't rely 100% on storage, because that's, there's issues with that. But because, the winter has been a little bit colder, more storage gas has been used. And so to replace that storage gas, you're probably looking, because a lot of that storage gas was bought last year when the prices were really low. and now, as you see the prices increase, that's probably going to impact the next gas supply rate that will occur in April.
All right.
We're hearing rumors of the increase. It doesn't mean it won't change, but we're hearing rumors.
Yeah, we're hearing rumors now.
We're doing
I
our
mean,
research.
I mean, there could be something out there in the atmosphere that
We're hopeful.
that drops the gas prices, but we'll have to wait and see.
Okay, all right. Any other comments or information you all would like to share?
We have a few more slides.
Okay, go
I'll
ahead.
rush through them.
Go ahead, that's
Sorry.
fine. You're fine, go ahead.
Yeah, we're taking up too much.
Yeah. But we'll go through this slide very quickly. So some of it I hit on earlier. Philip's slides talked about the cost of service in Texas and how it's showing to be higher than it is in Arkansas. Other things that I think are important for both the council and for the residents to understand is that Arkansas's return on equity and capital structure is more favorable or similar to recently approved ROE and capital structures here in Texas. And then there's a benefit here of the cost of the rate case being spread among many customers, so all SUA customers, versus doing a Texas-specific rate case where then the cost would be shared just among the Texas customers. Quickly want to go over the riders. This is why I didn't just cut myself off. So I'm going to go very quickly over these first two slides. But basically, prior to the acquisition, CenterPoint had a rider called the FRP. And it's called a formula rate plan. That is a mechanism that adjusted many things, and it enabled efficient recovery annually. And so that change came yearly. In Texas, you all have something very similar called the Gas Reliability Infrastructure Program. And essentially, we are not proposing that because we're proposing the same thing we have in Arkansas, and that GRIS is a little bit larger and more all-encompassing than the riders that we're proposing. So we have a few riders, but the two new riders, which really are not new, but more reinstating, because prior to the FRP, CenterPoint had these same riders. But the first rider that we have is called the Billing Determinant Adjustment, and it's intended to compensate a utility for deviations from the billing determinants, which are customer counts and volumes. And then the reason being is that the fair rates determined in a rate case are set using an estimated usage and customer count. So it's basically truing up for the actuals. BDA is beneficial because it reduces the frequency of full rate cases. And then also it's tied to the energy efficiency program. So the BDA was developed at a similar time because, of course, we're encouraging more efficient use of our product. And then I'm going to quickly go through, there we go, SSER, which is the System Safety Enhancement Rider. Under CenterPoint, this was known as a main replacement rider and the Services at Risk rider. And so we've combined it into one. And this allows for recovery of capital investments for integrity and public improvement projects primarily. And then already noted that from 2017, you guys didn't see this because you had this FRP and that's what it adjusted for. We don't have the FRP, and so we got a little bit more specific to Summit's needs and are requesting these two riders. This is the very last slide, and then there may be questions on the rider, but I just get through the last slide and then we're done. I also want to identify things that we're doing for the customers. So after this meeting, we do have an obligation to run in the newspaper a legal notice for 4 consecutive weeks. Before we post that newspaper notice, we're going to send out an email to Texarkana and the other 3 incorporated city members and let them know of this proposal in a little bit more layman's terms than that legal notice gets. The other thing that we're trying to prioritize is communication about levelized billing. So that's going to help not see that drastic fluctuation that Philip was just kind of talking about. Levelized billing is a great thing, and so we're trying to figure out how we can spread awareness of that. And then, of course, we have provided our customer service team with talking points on this rate case. So if a customer calls in to Summit and they just have questions, we have representatives ready to talk about that. And then, of course, Philip and I are always there for support as well. Now we are done with the presentation. Are there more questions?
Any final questions from the council? Okay, very good. Well, thank you all for your time. We appreciate the information.
Thank you for letting us come. We appreciate it.
All right, you're welcome.
40 minutes.
All right. Greg, thank you, sir. All right, so at this time, we'll move along to our second special presentation, which is a proclamation this evening relating to Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month for March 2025. And we have Stacy Tidwell with us this evening, as well as Linda Hooks. And we want to thank you ladies for being with us this evening. And feel free to share any information that you would like, and then I'll read the proclamation and then step down front and present it to you all.
Perfect, thank you. I'll just say that, you know, we have a community full of individuals that have these intellectual and developmental disabilities that most people don't realize. These individuals live in houses right next to you. They work in our businesses locally. They go to our schools, and they are thriving members of this community. And it's because of the recognition that they get, so that they can have the education and, well, the ability to go out and do these things thanks to what the community does to support them. So I appreciate that.
Okay, very good. Linda, anything you would like to share?
No, I just appreciate the being accepted into the community, because a lot of times, I have a special needs son myself, and a lot of times we're not accepted, and I appreciate y'all doing that for us.
Well, you're welcome. So, okay, well, thank you, ladies, for your comments. At this time, I'd like to read the proclamation, and then once I do that, I will step down front, present it to you all. If there's anyone here who needs to take photos, you're welcome to do that at that time. Proclamation. Whereas an estimated 549,000 individuals in Texas have developmental disabilities, and in Texarkana, that number is estimated to be over 200. And whereas the hopes and dreams of Texans affected by developmental disabilities do not differ from aspirations of all in our state. And like all Texans, they have unique skills and experiences that fortify our state's rich diversity. And whereas it is important to raise awareness not only in the state of Texas, but right here in our Texarkana community about how classrooms, workplaces, houses of worship, and communities are stronger when they include people of all abilities. And whereas the month of March raises awareness about people with developmental disabilities as well as their families and caregivers, and emphasizes the importance of including people of all abilities in every aspect of our lives. Now therefore, I, Bob Brugman, Mayor of the City of Texarkana, Texas, in recognition thereof, do hereby proclaim the month of March 2025 as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month, and encourage the citizens of Texarkana, Texas to come together to increase awareness about developmental disabilities and support full inclusion and equality for all. I have signed the proclamation. It has been attested by Jennifer Evans, our city secretary, and the city seal has also been affixed to the proclamation. So at this time, I'm going to step down to the front and I will present this proclamation to you all. And Stacy, do you have others from your organization here this evening?
Well, we did, but they had to run off, got a phone call, so.
Okay, all right. So, okay, well, I'll step down then.
Space will come.
No, he was just hiding behind you.
I was trying to get out, I couldn't get the microphone.
You're okay, you're out of frame. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Excuse me. At this time, we'll move along to mayor's remarks and items of community interest. We do have several events coming up in our community in the near future. Just as a reminder, our next regularly scheduled council meeting will be held on Monday, April the 14th, followed by our council meeting in the month of May on Monday, May the 12th at 6 p.m. here in the council chambers. The State of the City's breakfast, the State of the City's breakfast will be held at Texarkana College on Wednesday, April the 9th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. This is an event that is provided by our local Chamber of Commerce, and it allows the mayors of Texarkana, Texas, Texarkana, Arkansas, as well as Nash, Mayor Bunch in Nash, Mayor Brown from the Arkansas side, and I, to provide the community with an update of what's going on within our respective cities and as a community. Also, the TML Region 15 meeting will be held at the Texarkana Convention Center on Thursday, April the 17th from 5:30 to 8 p.m. Also, the Fresh Start Neighborhood Spring Cleanup will be hosted by the city and Keep Texarkana Beautiful. It'll be held at 8 a.m. on Saturday, March the 29th. Volunteers will help with trash cleanup, debris removal, gardening, and park improvements. Roll-off locations for waste disposal include the Beverly Community Center at 901 Lumpkin Street, the Scholars Center at Rose Hill at 1303 Milam Street, Newtown Baptist Church at 2203 Taylor Street, and the Finley Park in the Liberty Islo area located at 410 Finley Street. For more information, you can contact Jalen Scott at 903-798-1779. In reference to Parks and Recreation activities, on March the 20th through the 22nd will be the annual Terry Huggins Memorial Baseball Tournament at Wallace Park. And then on March the 20th, is that correct? Is Wallace Park? Okay. And then March the 25th, Parks Master Plan third public hearing will be held at 6:30 p.m. at the Texarkana, Texas Convention Center. And then on April the 12th will be the annual Texas A&M University big event, and that will be taking place at Spring Lake Park, Grady T. Wallace Park, as well as Bringle Park, and that will begin at 8 a.m. That's an annual event where the staff and faculty and students at Texas A&M University Texarkana go out and do community service that particular day, and so it's a great event that's been going on now for several years. We also have several events coming up at the Perot Theater. The Texarkana Symphony Orchestra will host Passionate Devotion, and that will be held on March the 22nd at 7 p.m. The Irish music and dance sensation, A Taste of Ireland, will be held on March the 26th at 7:30 p.m. The David Phelps concert, Speak of Love Tour, will be held on March the 30th at 7 p.m. Those of you who have an emphasis or like gospel music, David Phelps is one of the best, former member of the Gaither Vocal Singers. I've seen him in concert, and he does an incredible job. The State Ballet Theater of Ukraine will perform Swan Lake on April the 6th at 6 p.m., and tickets for the Perot Theater shows are available at perottheater.org. And then we also have another event that I've learned about today. It's going to be held next Monday, March the 17th at 7 p.m. at the Sullivan Performing Arts Center. It's going to be the Collingsworth family, and this is also a gospel music type concert that will be once again at 7 p.m. at the Sullivan Performing Arts Center, and more information can be obtained at bandsintown.com. At this time, we belong to our open forum, comments from the public. If there's anyone in the audience this evening who would like to address the council, you're welcome to do so. However, if you are here this evening to speak on behalf of one of our public hearing items, I respectfully ask if you will wait until we get to that particular public hearing item. We'll be more than happy to listen to your comments at that time. We also ask that you complete one of these gold-colored sheets that can be found at the near the door entrance there to provide us with a written record of your attendance this evening. I do have one sheet that was completed, and Mr. William T. Smith III, address of 1608 North Robinson Road, is here this evening, and he would like to address the council. And those of you who come forward to address the council, you will have up to 5 minutes to speak. So Mr. Smith, if you'll please come forward to the podium. And then, sir, if you'll please state your name for the record.
Yes,
Welcome
sir.
to our council meeting.
Yes, sir. This was on item number 9 on your agenda. If you'd like for me to wait and speak during that item, I'd be glad to do so.
Okay, that pertains to an action item. It's not a public hearing. You're welcome to go ahead and provide comments at this time if you would like.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
My name for the record is William T. Smith III. Our family-owned Super Bingo here in town. We support 8 charities in our community, well-known charities, CASA, Texarkana Museum Systems, wonderful charities. We've been doing this for 37 years in Texarkana. We applaud you for trying to do something to curtail the illegal gambling in our area. These 8-liner machines are by definition illegal. Anything you pay cash out, it's illegal already. So we applaud you for doing that. That concludes my remarks.
Okay.
If there's any questions or if you'd like any assistance going forward, I've got a lot of experience in this area. We deal with this on a statewide basis. I'm also the chairman of the Bingo Advisory Committee to the Lottery Commission. I'm also the president of the largest bingo lobby group in the state of Texas. So we have some background in this if we would like to offer our services if you need anything.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Well, thank you, Mr. Smith. We certainly appreciate your time and your remarks this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here with us. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council this evening?
Mayor Brueggemann, I did have one for agenda item number 029. It's on public hearing, so Mrs. Vivian Kosey can speak at that time.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, thank you, Ms. Evans. Okay, very good. Okay, at this time, we'll move along to our appointments to boards, commissions, and committees. Do we have any appointments or any reappointments this evening to any boards, committees, or commissions?
I have one, Mayor.
Councilmember Metter?
Yes, sir. Diana Kinsey to Planning and Zoning.
Okay.
Reappointment.
Reappointment?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Diana Kinsley that was to P&Z, Planning and
Yes, sir.
Zoning? Okay, very good. Council, I also have one. This is one of my appointments. I would like to reappoint Mr. Rob Sitterly to the Airport Authority Board. Are there any others? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval. Motion by Councilmember Page. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Thompson. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The reappointments have been confirmed. I want to thank both of these citizens for their continued service serving our great city. At this time, move along to items for consideration. We do have several items this evening on the consent agenda. Item 1 is to consider approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of the City Council held on February the 10th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Item 2 is resolution number 2025-035, acknowledging receipt of the Police Department's 2024 racial profiling report as statutorily reported. Item number 3, resolution number 2025-037, approving the budget calendar for fiscal year 2026. Item number 4, resolution number 2025-038, authorizing the city manager to execute a contract for the West Park Boulevard Water and Sewer Relocation Project in an amount not to exceed $169,280.80. Funds are available in the Texas Infrastructure Fund in the Utilities 2024-2025 budget. Item number 5, resolution number 2025-041, approving the Texarkana Airport Executive Director to amend FAA Grant 63 to add a reimbursable agreement with the FAA in the amount of $84,445.12 with no local matching funds. Item number 6, resolution number 2025-042, approving the Texarkana Airport Executive Director to execute an agreement with Garver Engineering of North Little Rock, Arkansas for design and procurement of a 1,500-gallon air rescue firefighting truck in the amount of $44,700 approved in the Texarkana Regional Airport fiscal year 25 capital budget. Unless a council member would like to pull one or further items for further consideration, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as it has been presented. Is there a motion for approval? We have a motion by Councilmember Matlock, a second by Councilmember Hart. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The consent agenda has been approved. We'll now move along to our action items. We do have 3 action items on the agenda this evening. Item 7 is resolution number 2025-036, approving the request of the Baseball Association of Texarkana, Texas, to change the name of field number 5 at Swanger Baseball Complex in Spring Lake Park to Mickey Moore Field. And we have Ross Cowling to brief us and provide additional information on this item. Good evening, Ross.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, council members. Appreciate your time and appreciate your volunteering to serve our community. And I wanted to jump off of that to go to our volunteers out at Spring Lake Park. We have a lot of volunteers that help all of our local associations, and specifically at Spring Lake Park, we have 13 members that put in countless hours out at the park and do a lot. And Mickey Moore did that for 20 years. And so within his 20 years of doing that, he did everything from coaching, umpiring, served as a board member. And so I wanted to give Brandon an opportunity to say what he'd like to say as far as the recommendation. But Parks and Recreation definitely stands behind this one.
Thank you, Ross. All right. Good evening, Brandon. If you'll please state your name for the record.
My name is Brandon Allison. I'm the sitting vice president for, it's now BATT. We changed our name when y'all approved the fields that we spoke about last time I was here. So I'm going to speak on behalf of not only myself, board members that are here of our association, and also Mickey's family, as nominating him to have, I believe it's Field 5, is the only remaining field that's not named at our complex. And having the privilege of serving on the board with him, I've now been on the board, I believe, 7 or 8 years. I've been co-vice president, president with him the last 3, and it's been an absolute honor to serve with him. His loss was huge to our community, and I'm gonna start getting upset, but he was massive to our baseball community. And so I don't think there will be a more of an honor than nominating him to have that field named after him, to carry on his legacy. On top of that, something that we've always discussed was when the fields were complete, we were going to try to bring in a new wiffle ball tournament. So I have taken the steps to get that approved, and we'll be hosting that in honor of him. And we'll be taking the funds from it to start a new scholarship fund that our league will be able to present to local players that have played with our community, that we will be in control of. So those are all things that we've tried to put in place for this upcoming season, and hopefully carry it on for many years to come to protect his legacy. So I appreciate y'all's time, and I would very greatly appreciate the vote to help carry his legacy on. Is there any questions that I can answer?
Any questions from Mr. Allison? Okay, thank you.
I appreciate y'all's time.
Thank you, sir.
I don't mean to call him out, but I know that Mickey's wife and his mother are both here. Sharon and Amy, can y'all stand up? Along with our board members on our baseball association as well.
And Ms. Sharon Moore is a longtime city employee here at the City of Texarkana, Texas. Sharon, thank you once again for your service to our city. Ms. Moore, thank you for being here along with the other family members as well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ross. I would like to certainly commend the effort and the great work that Mr. Moore put forth for many, many years. I will share with you during this spring, as I make my tour of duty with umpiring various high school baseball games in the community, Mr. Moore's name has come up often with fellow umpires, with high school baseball coaches in our area, with fans and others. And so he was certainly highly regarded in our community, certainly will be missed, and I think that this is a very, very appropriate gesture to do this in his memory at the Swanger Complex, so that in the days and weeks and months and years to come, those who come to Swanger Complex will also have the opportunity, as a reminder of his great service and dedication to our community. So we certainly appreciate that. And thank you all this evening for your comments. All right. If there are any questions or comments from the council, I will entertain a motion for approval of the resolution. Is there a motion? We have a motion by Councilmember Page. We have a second by Councilmember Hart. This item pertains to a resolution, so there is not a caption. We have a motion and we also have a second. All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The resolution passes unanimously. Once again, thank you all very much for being here this evening. At this time, move along to item number 8, resolution number 2025-039, authorizing the filing of a loan of application for financial assistance from the Texas State Infrastructure Bank, SIB, to cover material costs for the 10-inch water main relocation along US 82 in an amount not to exceed $2,500,000, and authorizing the mayor to act on behalf of the city and TWU in all matters relating to the application. We have with us this evening Mr. Gary Smith, Executive Director of TWU, to provide some additional information. Gary, good evening. We're glad to have you with us.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Thank you for letting me be here. As you said, this project is for the section of highway from just west of DeKalb to the Red River County line. If you remember back in 2013, we had to relocate a section of that water main because Texas was going to widen that section. Well, they ended up only doing a 3-lane. Now it's actually under construction, and we're out of the way. We did that back in 2013, and they're doing that from I-30 to DeKalb. Now, this project's going to be from DeKalb to Red River County line. They're going to turn that 2-lane highway to a 5-lane highway. So as a result, we've got about 7 miles of a 10-inch water line that we're going to have to relocate. So in an effort to keep the money down, we're going to do like we did in 2013. We're going to do that in-house, the construction. The request tonight is for a loan from the Texas State Infrastructure Bank for the materials only. And we've asked for up to, not exceeding $2.5 million. We're very sure it's going to be less than that, but to cover until because we have to bid it out, not knowing how bids can go sometimes, but we're pretty sure that's going to be more than cover what we need. We went with the State Infrastructure Bank because it is transferable to when Riverbend takes it over. We can transfer this loan to Riverbend, and then they'll take the loan over. And the bond, we looked at that, and it is not transferable. The city could not transfer it. And also, the State Infrastructure Bank, it saves about $1 million over the 20-year period over what the bond would cost. I'll be glad to answer any questions if y'all have any.
Any questions for Mr. Smith on this item? Okay, thank you, Gary.
All right, thank y'all.
All right, appreciate it very much. Any further questions or comments by the council? Any further comments by the staff? Okay, is there a motion for approval of the resolution?
So moved.
We have a motion by Councilmember Hart. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Metter. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. The resolution passes. Item number 9 is ordinance number 2025-040, establishing a 4-month moratorium on the acceptance of approval of applications for permitting the installation and placement of devices or machines regulated by Chapter 36 of the City Code of Ordinances, and directing the city manager to communicate to the Texas Legislature the City Council's policy determination that an 8-liner device or machine should be defined as a gambling device. Our city attorney, Mr. Jeff Lewis, will also provide additional information to the council on this item. Good evening, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Some of these issues were discussed at the council's recent workshop with respect to code enforcement initiatives. The aspect of statewide guidance for purposes of cities to enact any type of ordinance or regulation with regard to these 8-liner devices is surprisingly lacking. Except for, and I placed a map at each of your stations, there's a Texas map with a circle drawn around the northern counties that comprise the Second Court of Appeals. And after years of litigation, the Second Court of Appeals that sits in Fort Worth declared that these 8-liner devices, a couple of which are pictured in your packet materials, are unconstitutional gambling devices. But the Supreme Court declined to review the case, so there is no statewide precedent, but those counties, that includes the city of Fort Worth that started the litigation, do have judicial guidance on determining that these devices are gambling devices. There's also pending with the legislature 2 companion bills to place in the penal code a definition of 8-liners as a gambling device. And the Senate bill has been referred to the State Affairs Committee. Our state senator, Senator Hughes, chairs that committee. One of the thoughts with respect to looking at how the Court of Appeals in Fort Worth handled these constitutional issues, comparing that with the way that the legislature is considering amending the penal code to address these types of devices, leaves the city of Texarkana in an interesting position to determine what to do from here. We have some needs with respect to code enforcement. We have a chapter in the Code of Ordinances that broadly defines coin-operated machines, but doesn't drill down to the types of issues that were discussed by the Second Court of Appeals. It'd be nice to say, well, the Second Court of Appeals ruled this way, so that's good for us. That's not quite the way that the Court of Appeals jurisdictions work. I think it's a pretty good decision, but it's not something that's necessarily binding for our jurisdiction. So the thought occurred, and part of this thought was born from the workshop, to establish a temporary moratorium on receiving applications. Not sure why, we can guess, but there's been an influx of applications after it's been determined by the Second Court of Appeals that these types of devices are unconstitutional in the Second Court of Appeals jurisdiction. The thought being that a temporary moratorium would allow us time to review our ordinances, look at how the legislature is handling the matter. This is not the only type of broad gambling issue that the legislature might be looking at this session. And it is the ordinance is consistent with the types of moratoriums that have been passed by the council. Those instances are listed in the ordinance document itself. And if the council determines that we should be taking a policy statement that these types of devices, as proposed to the legislature, are indeed gambling devices, then this particular ordinance would direct the city manager to send to Senator Hughes tonight's ordinance, together with the council's recommendation that, Senator, we kind of like the way that these bills are proposing to amend the penal code. That will help our code enforcement considerably. That will help our police considerably. Sergeant Jeremy Sutton presented at the workshop for the council, and he's here tonight to answer any questions that you might have. Again, this is not making any final decisions with respect to what is or is not in our code, but it would be taking a policy statement position that these types of devices should be defined as gambling devices and regulated accordingly. I have much more information in the packet, but I'm not going to read it to you. It has the history of that Fort Worth litigation and also a little bit more background on our own code provisions.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Any questions by the council on this item? Okay, very good. So we are scheduled to take action on this item this evening. So is there a motion for approval of the ordinance?
So moved.
We have a motion by Councilmember Thompson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Metter. This item does pertain to an ordinance. So Ms. Evans, the caption, please.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Texarkana, Texas, establishing a 4-month moratorium on the acceptance and approval of applications for permitting the installation and placement of devices or machines regulated by Chapter 36 of the city's Code of Ordinances in the City of Texarkana, Texas, directing the city manager to communicate the City Council's policy determination that an 8-liner device or machine should be defined as a gambling device to the Texas Legislature, containing repealer, severability, and superseding clauses, containing legislative findings and establishing an effective date.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ordinance passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Lewis, for your background information and research on this. Sergeant Sutton, thank you for being here this evening as well. I know you've done a lot of work in relating to this item, and thank you for your service to the city of Texarkana, and thank you for working on this item specifically. All right. At this time, move along to our first briefings. We have one item this evening pertaining to first briefings. Ordinance number 2025-043, rezoning an approximate 14.144 acre tract of land being tract number 98A, M.H. Janes Headright Survey A-305, located at 7970 Hampton Road, which is located in Ward 5, from Single Family 2 to Commercial. Ryan Berry, owner, and Terry Moore, agent. We will have a public hearing on this item at our next council meeting on April the 14th, and council consideration during that same meeting. At this time, Michelle Daniel, city staff, is going to brief the council on this particular item. Good evening, Michelle.
Good evening, Mayor, and good evening, Council. So this is a request to rezone 79-7 Hampton Road from single-family 2 to commercial. The property is currently a trucking facility. The future land use map has designated this property as regional commercial. The adjacent zoning is single-family 2 to the north, east, and west, and Interstate 30 to the south. The adjacent land use is construction equipment facilities and storage to the east and west, vacant property to the north, and I-30 to the south. Planning and zoning recommend for approval of this request, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Michelle on this item? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate the information. At this time, we move along to our public hearings. We do have 3 public hearings scheduled this evening. We do have two of the 3 public hearing items that are related to each other. Item number 1, as far as public hearings, ordinance number 2025-029, closing and abandoning a 20-foot alley right-of-way and retaining a utility easement in its place in Block 1 of the Buchanan Avenue addition. At this time, I'll declare the public hearing open on this item. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to address the council, if you'll please come forward and state your name for the record. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. My name is Vivian Cossey, and I'm coming in concern of I received communication about the abandonment and closing of this, I think it's 20-foot area. I'm concerned because I did not know anything. Unfortunately, the letter went to my father, who is 89 years old, who would not have any idea of what was going on. So I'm really receiving this information at the last minute and wanting to know how that will affect that property. The property that I'm speaking of is 1114 Willis Street, which is where I have most of my life had lived with my parents or grandparents there, and now that property will belong to me shortly. Will that prevent any emergency from coming to that property if something happens on the backside, or how would that be closed off and done?
Okay, I'm going to defer to staff on that particular request or that particular question. Dr. Orr?
I would defer to our Public Works Department. I would say that typically for emergency services, an alleyway would not be their route, but again.
Okay. Yeah, we've got Dusty Hensley over Public Works. Dusty, good evening.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This particular alley is not serviceable, which means it is not paved or accessed anyway. All the properties are accessed from the streets in that area. So this is why it was one of those where we recommended for abandonment, because we don't have access to it. The only thing that accesses is utilities, which is why the utilities will be retained in its place.
So, ma'am, based on that, there shouldn't be any impact on emergency equipment responding to that particular area.
Okay, so it will be closed or concrete in, or what will be done?
So
Hensley, we'll discuss further.
at this time, the only proposed improvements will be along where the new church is going to be developed. So right now, there is no pavement, no access back there. So they will do it along their proposed property, but that will be it. So all utilities will still have access through both ends. So at some point, so if the power line or a sewer line has issues, they still have access to get back there to do their emergency work.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. We sure appreciate your time this evening. Okay, public hearing is still open on this item. If anyone else would like to address the council, if you'll please state your name for the record.
James Hawkins, excuse me.
Pastor Hawkins, good evening. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Mayor. Good to see you, see the council. I'm the pastor of St. John Baptist Church, where we are currently located at 1213 Garber Street, just southwest of here. And the church was established 100 years ago, in 1925.
Wow.
The building is probably about 70 or 80 years old. That's where we currently have service. And we've been working to build a new church, which is on the east side of South Lake Drive at Willis and Garber Street.
Okay.
This proposed alley abandonment, which we are requesting, and like has been stated, the utilities will still be active. We just need that abandonment to help so we can build a church and to access the church across that alley. And that's why we need the abandonment. I think it's some utility poles that are there, but the utilities it will go underground. and, but it would not interrupt or disrupt anybody services that are on that. And it was my understanding that we tried to contact everybody that did have property there, which there's only one active residence there, and he is a member of our church, and he signed off on it. Some we were not able to get any response from them, so that's where we are. We're just asking that we could abandon that alley to where we can build a new church and move from where we are now. I don't have a slide, a PowerPoint, but if you can see the church at where we are now, you could understand why we were wanting to build a new building. And I have contractors here with us, and I also have some members of the church. If y'all will stand so we can see everybody. We have some deacons and some trustees. My wife is there in the black and the two other ladies here, but we're here to see if we can get that alley to where we can build a new church.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Pastor. Appreciate that.
Mayor Brueggemann, council members, I'm Donnie Seeley with TDC General Contractors.
Mr. Seeley, we welcome you to the Texas side.
Thank you. We look forward to building a nice facility. Looks like we may need to pass a plate over here to the church members. But no, we welcome the opportunity to be here, and it's going to be a nice facility. And Mark Wortley is here. He will be overseeing the project, and he has some information I think he may want to share. So, Mark.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Seeley.
Hi there. Mark Wortley with TDC. The abandonment is needed to be able to tie in the parking on the west side of the alley so we can cross over to the church side. So the members will be able to, once they're parked, they can walk across there. There'll be a segment that will be paved, either asphalt or concrete. Utilities, Windstream owns the poles. They have said they will take those poles out and put their line underground, and SWEPCO will remove their lines and place a new pole out of the way. And that's the reason we need the abandonment. And I sure hope you vote yes for it so we can get this church built. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wardle. Thank you, sir. All right, thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your time this evening. And ma'am, thank you for your time as well. Public hearing is still open on this item. If anyone else would like to address the council, if you'll please come forward. All right, this time I'll declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion for approval of the ordinance?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Hart. We have a second by Councilmember Page. Ms. Evans, the caption, please.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Texarkana, Texas, closing and abandoning a 20-foot alley located north of Garber Street and east of South Lake Drive, located in Block 1 of the Buchanan Avenue addition in the city of Texarkana, Bowie County, Texas, containing a repealer clause, providing for a severability clause, and establishing an effective date.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ordinance passes unanimously. I want to wish the congregation and the contractor much luck with this new project. Congratulations, and best of luck to you in the future. So thank you all for being here this evening as well. All right. Thank you all. Okay. At this time, move along to items 2 and 3. Item 2 pertains to the rezoning of this particular, and also want to thank Dusty. Where's Dusty? Dusty, thank you for your help in answering the concerned citizens' question on that matter too. And David, thank you as well. All right, item number 2 pertains to the rezoning. Item number 3 pertains to the specific use permit, but we'll cover item 2 first. Ordinance number 2025-030, rezoning an approximate 2.408 acre tract of land, being Tract 10C, West Texarkana, GDN, located at 921 West Lawn Drive, which is in Ward 2, from Single Family 2 to Single Family 3, Maria Rodriguez, owner, and Julieta Rosales, agent. At this time, I'll declare the public hearing open on this item. If there's anyone who would like to address the council, if you'll please come forward and state your name for the record. Not seeing anyone coming forward at this time, we'll declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion for approval of the ordinance?
So moved.
We have a motion by Councilmember Matlock, a second by Councilmember Hart. Ms. Evans, the caption, please.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Texarkana, Texas, amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Texarkana, Texas, by rezoning on an approximate 2.408 acre, being Tract 10C, West Texarkana GDN, located at 921 West Lawn Drive in the city of Texarkana, Bowie County, Texas, from Single Family 2 to Single Family 3, containing a repealer clause, containing a severability clause, and establishing an effective date.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ordinance passes. Item number 3 is ordinance number 2025-031, granting a specific use permit to allow the location of a double-wide HUD code manufactured home on an approximate 2.408 acre tract of land, being Tract 10C, West Texarkana, GDN, located at 921 West Lawn Drive, Ward 2, Maria Rodriguez owner, Julieta Rosas agent. At this time, I declare the public hearing open on this item. If anyone would like to address the council, please come forward and state your name for the record. Not seeing anyone coming forward at this time, I declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion for approval of the ordinance?
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Hart. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Metter. Ms. Evans, the caption, please.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Texarkana, Texas, amending the zoning map showing the location, boundary, and use of certain property by the granting of specific use permit number S-805 to allow the location of a double-wide HUD code manufactured home on an approximate 2.08 acre tract of land, being Tract 10C, West Texarkana GDN, located at 921 West Lawn Drive in the city of Texarkana, Bowie County, Texas, containing a repealer clause, containing a severability clause, and establishing an effective date.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ordinance passes unanimously. All right, this concludes our public hearings portion of the agenda. We'll now move along to the city manager's report. Dr. Orr.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a few updates to pass along to you tonight. First off, a recap of our Northeast Texas Regional Alliance at the legislature, which happened earlier this month. We had cities representatives from across East Texas, as well as counties that were represented there. This summit included meetings with our state rep and state senator, as well as presentations from various state agencies. So as a result of that trip, and thanks to our attorney Jeff Lewis, we've worked with Representative Gary Van Dever's office to introduce House Bill 3484. This House bill focuses on agreements between border municipalities, enhancing cooperation and expanding future eligibility for funding for shared infrastructure. This legislation urges Texas recognition of our vested interest in supporting co-owned municipal facilities across our shared communities, and it is an approach that the state took over 50 years ago that we are adding additional legislation to. So I want to thank Jeff for his efforts on that, and also Representative Van Dever's office and also Senator Hughes' office for their work on that. Speaking of shared infrastructure, I know many of you get questions about State Line and the State Line reconstruction project, so I have some information on that from RDOT. So they provided on the screen some additional information on their design plans. So last Friday was the 30% design plans submittal, so we should have that information soon. And then we'll have 60% by September 30th and then 90% by April 30th of 26. So this project is still scheduled for construction in 2027. And so at every point, staff will have review, as well as our Metropolitan Planning Organization and both TxDOT and RDOT as well. So if you have questions about that, please contact staff, but I wanted to give you an update on where they're at on that project. And finally, we have released our 2025 Parks and Recreation Guide. And so you can see a cover on your screen. We also have electronic copies available online, as well as paper copies at City Hall. So encourage the public to pick up a copy of the Parks and Rec Guide as well. That's all.
Okay, very good. Thank you, David. We'll now move along to administrative comments. Any comments from the council? Just we'll pick up on what David just mentioned about the State Line project. So that project's scheduled to be done in 2 phases. Phase 1 would be from the intersection of Texas Boulevard and Arkansas Boulevard going south, and then Phase 2 would be from Texas Boulevard, Arkansas Boulevard going north to I-30. So that will be done in two separate phases. And so Be looking forward for construction to begin. That'll be coming right around the corner pretty soon. All right, anything else from the council this evening?
Yes, I have something.
Ms. Matlock?
You know, it's starting to get warm, and all of the illegal dumping has started. How do we, besides catching somebody in the act, what else can we do to prevent the illegal dumping all over the city? There's tires everywhere down our wards.
We certainly work with our code enforcement officers, and we try to do some patrolling, but you're right, it's very difficult to catch people in the act. But through code enforcement, just send us those requests as they come through, and we'll certainly get to them as time allows. The other thing that we've done is partner with some of our property owners that have a lot of illegal dumping on their property. And so we work with them through the cleanups and through some of the other things that we have scheduled this spring to address that. Because a lot of times, the property owners that are being dumped on is not necessarily their fault, right, in terms of, but they end up with the code violation many times, so.
I don't have a problem if the city cleans it up right away whenever I report it. It's just that, how do we stop people from coming into the neighborhoods dumping things?
We'll take a look at that from our code enforcement standpoint. I do know at times we've had cameras and we've had remote cameras and other things to try to catch people in the act, but again, it is difficult to do that, but we can look at some different ways of addressing that.
Okay. All right. Any other thank you, Ms. Matlock. Any other comments from the council? Okay. We had such a large gathering this evening. I missed a couple of people in the back. We have Dr. Robin Hickerson, the president and CEO of the Texarkana Chamber of Commerce. And we also have Judge Sherry Hawkins with us this evening. So just now saw y'all as things kind of thinned out in the audience this evening. So appreciate your attendance at our council meeting this evening. And at this time, the City Council will convene into closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071, consultation with City Attorney in reference to street safety zones. And for everyone here and those watching on live stream, the council does not anticipate taking any action after closed session other than reconvening in open session and adjourning the meeting. And at this time, we will end the live stream. And thank you all very much for your attendance this evening. Hope you have a great evening. Thank you.